Welcome to the Barebow Project podcast, developing fundamental skills for barebow archers and bringing the excitement of barebow competitive archery to you through the lens of some of the best archers and coaches in the world.
What tab are you shooting?
Ghost!
Ghost tab, obviously.
Hey guys, welcome to the Barebow Project. In this episode, we are going to talk about the outdoor versus the indoor setup and approach to barebow archery. Meeting with John Dillinger, as you guys well know, the winner of last year's Classic, the winner of Vegas, the winner of the U.S. Open for Outdoor Target Nationals. John had a good year. John took it upon himself to go through your questions to try to answer specific questions that are relative to the season or the time of year that we are in. So that's what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to go through and talk about the outdoor versus indoor game. Likewise, special thank you to our sponsors, Yost Archery Products, Jaeger Archery Products, and VMAX Xwings. We have a few others coming. Please be on the lookout for that. And we will definitely get some discount codes and other opportunities and giveaways for you guys coming down the pipeline. So thanks again and enjoy the show. The Barebow Project is having a special little series once a month. And this gentleman, I use that term very loosely, is our first person, our first guest, our first content area expert. I don't know what you want to call it. Mr. John Dillinger is here for the first episode, volume, whatever, of answering your barebow questions. So I had put a post out there a year ago, this month, when we first started this whole thing, and it was like, if you have barebow questions, blah, 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 blah. Actually, I was trying to find it. I'll have to search for it. Barebow question. I put it out there and the post just blew up. And I had at one point moved it off of the announcements at the top because there was just so many. And then I put it back up there and now I can't find it at the moment. Because there's just so many questions. And to be honest, what we found is that as we would do episodes, as you've been on like a gabillion times, we go long-winded and we talk about everything and all kinds of stuff, and then we never really get to really dive into questions. So these are shorter, specific podcasts that we want to concentrate on listener questions and pertinent items to maybe the season we're in, etc. So why don't you tell everybody, John, what topic you chose to discuss?
Well, since we're coming off of outdoor season or outdoor target shooting to indoors, I kind of wanted to cover the question of what tuning differences and what form or shot differences there are coming from outdoors to shooting indoors.
Yeah.
And this is just for me. It may not work for everybody, but as far as like tuning the bow, I shoot basically the same poundage. I'll shoot anywhere, indoors and outdoors, anywhere from like 38 pounds to about 41 pounds. And the reason why I shoot that poundage is, for me, it's a cleaner release than if I drop my bow weight. It's a cleaner release, and it's just not too much because, both of those, you shoot a lot of arrows. So it's to avoid injury. Where I've shot more poundage before, I've shot up to like 46 pounds, and my elbow takes a pounding and my shoulder starts taking a pounding. So I've backed that off the last couple of years to like 38 pounds indoors and like maybe no more than 40 outdoors. As far as weight on the riser, it's about the same. I added a little bit for the U.S. Open and Target Nationals, just maybe 3 or 4, 5 ounces. I can't remember what it was. It was just one of the side plates for the Hoyt riser, just to help combat wind a little bit, which we always have wind. I mean, that's the one variable that's, different. You get rain and wind and weather and things like that when you shoot outdoors, of course. But as far as my riser and limbs, basically the same thing. I usually drop my knock height, just to get the tune for 50 meters. And that's the tricky part, is shooting an arrow and shooting a bow weight where you can get that 50 meters point on or somewhere close to it that's manageable and a good tune. For me, the biggest difference is arrows, which I have some numbers here. So, which is, you're going to find this interesting when I'm done, which I figured front of center. But for like what I shot at Outdoor Nationals is just the Victory VAP. It was about 29 inches long. The total weight of the arrow is 310 grains. I shot 140s up front. Currently I have 120s in these, but 500 spine, and they seem to group really good. So a lot of guys will shoot something similar to this. I think anything over a 300 grain arrow is pretty good for outdoors. You don't want to go too light. The wind really affects it. Front of center on this, AMO front of center was 17%. So, and what I found was all my indoors, outdoors, everything is 16 to 18% front of center. So I thought that was kind of odd, even for indoors. And that's just by chance that's just where I find a good tune. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, but that's pretty much my outdoor arrow. These vanes I just had on there for this year, and I just left them on there. Typically a light vane in the back, nothing too big. I think these are the K-spins. I don't know if you've ever seen them break.
We were talking about that when we shot
These
together
are-
at the Nationals. You're like, "Oh, I found these. I don't know. I'm and they work great." So
I didn't want to refletch them.
Yeah.
And I had no contact issues, so I just shot them. And they seem to work pretty good. They're super light. They're actually I don't know. They're kind of neat. They're almost like
They're
working
pretty
like
stiff. They're a stiffer vane
are.
compared to the XS Xwings that we shoot. I noticed, and they're older. They're an older brand, right?
they are. I think they're out of Japan. A lot of the Olympic recurve shooters used to shoot them. I just have a bunch of them, and they were on the arrows. So
Hey, if they work, they work.
They work. For indoors, I got a couple of different arrows that I shot the last couple of years. The VXTs, which I shot in Vegas and Lancaster. These are 450 spine and about 30.5 inches long.
I gotta get my hands on some of those to try for indoor. I went back to shooting the fat shafts again, the Black Eagle PS23s, but I have not shot those yet. I have to get myself some.
They're different. They're a tapered shaft, which I cut off the front of these because they're 450 spine. They were a little bit stiff. Actually, these, when you cut off the front, it doesn't really change the spine. It's when you cut off the back, it makes them stiffer a lot faster. So if you cut off the front, it really doesn't change the spine. It just kind of changes how the arrow acts a little bit, kind of changes your point on a little bit and things like that. But 150 grain points, the VXT points, and then I'm just shooting the Vane Tech. I can't remember exactly, the VMAX
Xwings.
No, they're actually a Vane Tech's VMAX is what they're called. I can't remember, they're 2.5 inch or whatever, but that's what I shot at Vegas and Lancaster. So they're actually a vane. They're a glue on. I don't know. I hate messing with tape on vanes anymore. I'm getting lazy.
Do you ever have any contact issues? You notice contact issues? You just, once you get the tune, you don't touch it.
And I'll check it. I'll do the foot powder spray just to double check. When I come up with the tune, just spray a little bit of that on there. And I'll just spray down on the side of the shaft with the plunger and I'll just look for contact there, just to make sure, because I don't want that incidental contact, and I'll shoot it a few times just to make sure. But I'm finding with these, you get a little more clearance issues because they are a tapered shaft. So I really like them, and they come in at 412 grains. So, there's always the argument of, are the bigger shafts better, smaller shafts? These are actually a 166 arrow that are kind of just fatter on the one end. I've shot both, and I feel like I'm more consistent with a thinner arrow, with the smaller diameter arrow. I've shot higher scores with the fat arrow, but I feel like I'm more consistent with a thinner arrow.
Yeah.
We all know tournament pressures, things tighten up a little bit, and it can go, for me, it can go bad really quick if I'm shooting a fat arrow.
Yeah, I've played around with the fat shafts and the RZs, and I went to the RZ last year. Mainly, I actually shot Demers arrows at Lancaster because mine weren't done, and I don't even think I had them yet. And the forgiveness of that smaller arrow versus a bigger arrow is definitely there, but. And that's what I guess that's where the like shooting under pressure and stuff like that can come in, where a 23 or a 22 diameter arrow that's a 7 or a 6 with that RZ exact same shot could be like a right side 9 or an 8.
Yeah,
it definitely happens. There's no question.
And some people like shooting the fat shafts. I know there's quite a few guys that do really well with them. It's just, I visit them every year, and I just go back to the thinner shafts.
Yeah.
Because I'll have a couple of rounds where I shoot crazy good scores, and then the next score is like, what happened? And I feel like my shot wasn't that bad. So just for me, that's what works. And these come in at 16.3% front of center. So right there, kind of with my outdoor arrows. So I don't know if that's just a magic number for me or what, but that arrow. And then some people, I saw a couple of questions also, which heavy arrows compared to lighter arrows. And this is one that I shoot for like NFAA trad class. It's almost full length. It's like 32 and a half. It's a 600 grain arrow. And the biggest factor with shooting a heavy arrow compared to a light arrow is you have to stay in the shot. I mean, you got to have a good bow arm, I think, to shoot a heavy arrow. That's my personal opinion. It takes longer to get the arrow out of the bow. But I know some guys that shoot really well with heavy arrows. These actually shoot really good for when I put a stabilizer on my bow. But these are like, I think they're 150s with 80 grain stainless inserts. So they're pretty heavy up front. And these are actually 18% front of center. So I don't know if that's, I just thought it was really strange that they were all within 2% front of center. But this is another probably pretty common indoor arrow. Just if somebody likes to shoot something heavy. And these are like a hybrid diameter. They're not a micro, but they're 204, I think, inside diameter.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that's the biggest differences for me from indoor to outdoor. Of course, you're crawling down the string. But I don't mess with tiller. I always leave my tiller even because you start chasing your tail, and then one thing leads to another, and then you got a bad tune. And so I just like to leave my bows at even tiller and crawl down and just adjust knock height and then center shot and all that stuff. It's pretty close. Actually, for my indoor setup to outdoor this year, I don't even think I really messed with my plunger tension. It was just all right there. So it actually worked out pretty good. But I think, the bow I'm shooting is pretty forgiving. And so, I mean, that's probably part of the reason. I don't have to do a bunch of tinkering with tune or anything like that. But
So currently, what bow are you shooting? What is your setup?
Right now, I'm still shooting. I plan on shooting the 25-inch Exceed with the extra long limbs. And I'll go from there. We'll see what happens.
That's a nice setup. I shot that setup as well. I prefer the 27, but I only got to play with them a little bit, and I do have a little bit of a longer draw than you, so I run in, it just seems like when you have that, if you're like a 30 plus inch draw, it definitely seems like the longer helps, but, you know, to each their own, you have a little bit more forward anchor than
Yeah, so I'm like 29 and a half, typically. So it's not a really long draw, but for me, it just works. Some people see my alignment and they're like, "Ooh, you got to fix that," but it just works for me.
we may have had that conversation, but you can't deny that it works. And, that's a biomechanical thing. So even from indoor to outdoor, you still keep that forward anchor.
I can't honestly. I can't get my body in that position.
Yeah.
I've tried, and it doesn't like it. It doesn't seem to work.
Yeah.
So everybody's built differently. So what works for one doesn't work for another one.
That's right.
It's not textbook, but it works. But yeah, that's really all. That's my differences from indoor to outdoor. It's, I don't know if you want to touch on that anymore or.
No, I think you covered the gist of it. I mean, that's a question that's often asked from season to season, or what's your equipment or what changes. Just run down your bow equipment and across, like, top down. What are you shooting? Give me every detail.
Like the Hoyt Exceed with the Velos extra longs. I might play around with some longs. I might play around with the 27-inch riser. We'll see how it goes. I have to build a string if I want to do that. But
plunger rest.
String, yeah. String is I make my own 8125, and I use Halo. And it seems to work. I haven't really played around with anything else. It's just reliable, I guess. And then my rest is usually I'll either shoot the Spig ZT or the map. I've been shooting the map. The map is basically a Spig ZT, but it's got a little adjustment for drop away, which I've kind of blocked mine out because I think at Outdoor Nationals, actually, I did have a little bit of drop in it just to give it a little bit of cushion. But for indoors, I pretty much lock it out because it's a heavier arrow. My plunger, I go between an arc, and I've been shooting a Whiffler, the map or the MP1, and so I'll probably shoot that for indoors. We'll see how it goes, but it's working out well. And the grip is the Jaeger dimmer grip, the JD3 grip, whatever it is. Seems to work well for indoors and outdoors, so I don't really see a need to change. It's got a good grip on it, which I don't like a slippery grip. And that's pretty much it.
And a Yoast tab.
And a Yoast tab. Yeah, you cannot forget that. And I think one of the biggest differences, I used to make my own tabs before this year, and I switched to Eric's tab like last fall, and it probably helped quite a bit. So, yep, great people too.
I may or may not have my hands on a prototype ergonomic plate that goes on the back side of the Yoast tab that fits in your fingers.
Oh.
Helps to prevent extra movement of the tab and promote more stability. To put in a very small microscopic explanation of what's happening there, and I've been trying that. We're working on some things with Eric and Paul to bring a little bit more of the Olympic recurve world to Barebow, some of the things that are popular there, some of the options that are available. So it's something I'm still playing with. It's changed my hook a little bit. But going, and the reason I bring that up now is because, like you said, about how that's a change just in the Yoast tab alone, having that plate, the brass plate I love personally, but with keeping it from moving. So when you start to, and I'll explain a little bit, when you fill these voids, so we make our hook, right? When you fill the voids in the hand and allow that tab to not jockey at all, you get super stressful. You clench your hand more than normal, or I have a tendency, actually, when I get relaxed, to get too far out this way. I get like, out here because I have a really deep hook. So we're working on some things there to help shooters be more consistent.
Yeah.
I don't, and this is a little outside of the indoor outdoor change, but like my hook doesn't change from indoor to outdoor at all. So if I can get one thing and get my hook and my release as repeatable as possible, that includes my setup though. And I wanted to ask you about that. Do you notice when you do crank I think you mentioned it before. So you said about the higher weight, you feel like you have a cleaner release. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I'm the opposite of you. I higher weight makes me a little bit more panicky. I like to be as comfortable as possible at full draw. And I'm right now, I think my biggest transition or my biggest thing that's helped my scores go up is like my concentration at full draw. I don't even aim anymore. Like I aim, it's there, but my concentration is right here.
Yeah.
Just letting the string do this. That's it. Like that's probably like my biggest, like if I was chasing a golden pony right now, that's it. Do that on every shot. When you change your poundage, do you notice your release change?
I don't think so. I wish I could shoot more. I wish I could shoot like 45 pounds because I feel like I have such a good, crisp, clean release with that. And last year, I spent a lot of time just working on my release. I would go out and say, okay, all I'm working on is just release. I don't care what else happens, just release, just release. And I don't even really think about it anymore, like getting a clean release, because I'll have one or two plucks in a round, but I can handle that, like compared to fighting other issues. So it's kind of, for me, I don't know if it's just the amount of work I put in or it's just something that I don't even think about anymore or what, but the release is like least of my worries. Usually I'm focusing on my bow arm staying in the shot.
Yeah.
Follow through, I struggle with it just a little bit, where I'm not following through my draw arm sometimes, and I kind of have to touch on that throughout the round. I'll be like, okay, I need to work on this a little bit. I need to be thinking about this or watch this. But yeah, it's funny because it's not usually just one thing. It would be nice just to show up and shoot, but that's a hard thing to do because there's always something that starts slacking, get lazy, like your bow arm gets a little lazy, or like your release gets a little plucky, or something like that. But yeah,
I'm right there with you. I know a lot of people I don't working on your release, having an amazing release working on your release is never a weakness. You're not wasting your time.
yeah,
And I think that there's a lot of barebow shooters out there that they don't work on their release. They're so caught up in the target panic issue that they don't realize that the efficiency of your release, like I know you said that like right now you don't have to think about it, but the efficiency in your release helps to combat the bad shots. Like, and that's the way I always try to explain it is like, listen, if you got to break down your shot into components, you need to work on all of those components. You need to concentrate on the ones that you're struggling with. And that may change from the indoor to outdoor game and vice versa. Things change. Like I aim different indoors than I do outdoors.
yeah,
Outdoors, I'm much more relaxed when there's like no conditions and it's perfect weather and stuff like that. But when it's raining and windy and stuff, you have to shoot a stronger shot. You have to be more into the aim then because it's 14-mile-an-hour wind gust and you have to aim in the 7 ring. But indoors, we have controlled conditions. So you might be able to float it a little bit more. And I don't have to worry about the aim as much, even though the target's smaller, but I can be more into my release. And, people don't like they don't define all of those individual components of their shot. They don't know what it's supposed to feel like. So they just shoot and kind of hope it's going to get better.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you said, you spent a majority of your time, or a lot of your time over the past year on your release. And it's not a surprise that you had one of the best years or the best year of your competition
Oh
career.
yeah, by far. Yep,
So
by far. Yeah, and I mean that's really what you have to do. You can't go out and practice and work on multiple things at one time. You have to shoot a lot. You have to say, okay, today I'm just going to focus on grip pressure, and because once that causes issues too, or bow arm, I need to focus on bow arm. So I mean, you have to go out and you have to work for different
yeah.
parts of your shot.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff, and I'm glad we got to touch a little bit upon process from indoor to outdoor or outdoor to indoor, because there's a lot of people that don't only shoot indoor, they don't shoot outdoor at all, and then there's guys like Rick only shoots indoor because it gets a little bit cold and there's some big shoots to shoot, but he could shoot 50-meter all year long if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Where else in the Northeast and where you're at, like we don't get that option. I'm not shooting 50 meters out and I'm just not doing it. I love
for us. It's majority we shoot indoors more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. But indoors is also, I think it's important that people, even if you don't like it, if you're a 3D shooter or you're a field shooter, or I think the indoor game it's kind of there's a growth mindset to it. If you can get better and better at indoor, the other stuff is going to improve, because indoor is freaking hard.
Yeah, I think indoors causes the most stress.
Yep.
It's the most anxiety. It's the most
grind. It's a mental.
Yeah, it is. It's a grind because there's no excuses. You can't blame the weather. You can't blame the wind. There's no excuses. But I think if you shoot a lot of indoors, it makes you a lot better shooter overall.
Definitely.
I mean, because it shows all the weaknesses. You shoot that 40 centimeter feet of face, and it shows all your weaknesses. So. But yeah, I think all the good shooters, if you shoot good indoors, you can shoot good anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we will learn, or new shooters that are improving will see, is that in indoors you shoot in closer proximity to people, so it's a little more uncomfortable. Cameras are right on top of you instead of even like Chrissy found out at nationals, and like the camera came up on the one end and like her heart just started pounding, and she got a little like antsy, and she got through it and then realized like it's not a big deal. And I think that's probably one of the things with Chrissy that we're seeing, because she's already got a consistent shot and all that other stuff, but we're seeing like her, and I call it either like shooting maturity. Her approach is changing because that stuff isn't a big deal to her. And in indoor, we're all closer, everything's compact. Well, this year things might be different. We'll be socially distanced, whatever, but the cameras will still be around, and they're like literally 4 feet behind you as opposed to back behind the waiting line, and then outdoor, like you have all that space behind the shooting line. We were shooting next to each other and we were like a mile apart at nationals, but you go into indoor and it's this year will be different, but ordinarily it's not. And that's the thing. Like there's people constantly on top of you and watching. It doesn't go away, So yeah, and you almost have to look at shooting indoor as a training. It's like more training than not. Like it's just going to make you better. Embrace the suck and do it.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I mean, confidence is huge for me. If I go into a shoot feeling pretty confident, or I start out the day shooting well, that's huge for me is shooting confident. And how do you get confidence? I mean, you just have to shoot a lot, have to watch your scores, play with your tune, try different arrows. That's another thing is I might try going into an indoor season, I might try 30 different tunes, different weights, different point weights, different arrow lengths, different spines, different fletchings. I think a lot of people grab some arrows and they string up their bow and they go shoot. And I'm like, man, you should spend a little time looking for a better tune, because you see that arrow come out and it's porpoising and and I try to help those people, but
Yeah.
I mean, and it takes a while. It does. It takes a while to figure out what you need to do to get your equipment working properly, or have a coach that knows what they're doing like you, that can look at a bow when they shoot it and say, whoa, we need to look at this. That's huge. But yeah.
All right, man. I think we definitely answered the question, and touched on some other stuff involving the indoor outdoor game. And that's the purpose of this little short mini series. And for the listeners, I'm sure that you will end up being back on again, especially if you see a question out there that just pops out at you, 35, 40 minutes, man, and we can hammer it out. Grayson's looking at some, John obviously looking at some. We're gonna recruit some other guys throughout the industry and throughout Barebow, and maybe even some product stuff to explain the in-depth, put the knowledge out there. And I mean, knowledge is power and everything. And I think that the Barebow Project, our goal has been from day one to provide that learning opportunity. And that's really what this is for somebody to get inside your brain and hear your approach. I mean, you're coming off winning. You didn't win indoor nationals, but you won Vegas. You won the Classic. You won the U.S. Open of Outdoor Nationals. And you were in the mix of everything else. So, there's no better. And how long have you been at this game now, Dilly?
I think Barebow, 6 years, but I've shot compounds my whole life pretty much. So some of that was carried over, obviously, but there's also some bad habits. But about 6 years, and it's really taken me probably that long just to figure out some tricks as far as tuning and what works for me. I recommend just make little changes. Don't try to make huge changes. Like when you're with your shooting or with your tune, you'll end up just chasing your tail. Just baby steps, I guess. Try to soak in as much knowledge as you can, but at the same time, don't be afraid to try something different. I don't know. 2020 was a really good year for me, even though it's been crazy. Hopefully, I can carry that over to next year. I just have the same mentality. There's really no expectations. I just shoot as much as I can, and hopefully I'm prepared enough, so that's the thing.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out, between fishing and your disc golf season retirement and
Oh man, yeah, it's I'm starting to get the bug to shoot again, so it's been a nice break. My body feels good, my shoulder feels good, my elbow. When you're shooting 100 arrows a day at least, you start feeling a little something, especially when you get a little older. But yeah, everything is feeling good right now, so I'm kind of excited to get into this 2021. So
yeah, me too. I think it's going to be a good year. It sucks that the tournaments are the way they are, and there's a lot of questioning out there how things are going to work. But hey, I mean, we get to compete in NFAA remotely. We hope. I don't know what's happening with indoor nationals yet. The Classic is going to happen. So it's all going to work itself out. I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be a year to remember, just with the craziness that we've been through. So hopefully that stuff dies down soon. But that's your fault for winning the Classic, the first big tournament of the year. You set the tone for 2020, you jerk.
Yeah, the world's gone crazy. I win the Classic in Vegas. It's what's going on in the world?
I'm going to let you go. Tell your wife we said hello, and I'll catch you in the kayak next time for the next question. All right.
Sounds good. It was just too cold out there, so I was freezing.
Yeah, so. No, I get it. No worries. We'll get one in the kayak. Maybe even just get yourself a kiddie pool and put it in the just sit in the kayak. So,
all right. Great. Thanks for everything you do for the Barebow community also, by the way. So,
no problem.
Good job.
I honestly enjoy it. I mean, I get overwhelmed and I do a ton of stuff, and I think everybody knows it. I just, between my own program here in Pennsylvania and the shop and work and, just everything. And but I enjoy like the educational side of it. I enjoy the knowledge side of it, and I enjoy communicating that either as a coach or online or through the podcast or whatever. But it's just compound has a ton of it. Olympic recurve has a ton of it. You can go all over, and I'm taking my level 4 right now. So
Yeah, I saw that.
but Barebow really doesn't. And with between like you and Demmer's plethora of knowledge and Grayson's way to articulate everything, like he's so good. I wish I could get him on more, but Grayson's just busy. And there's a lot of people out there that have this gift, like you guys, and there just needs to be a way to communicate it and to help make Barebow better and American Barebow. I mean, and I've said it before, ultimately my goal is to grow all of Barebow, but like I want to see the American side of things improve. And I think scores have gone up. Just in the last year, I think the scores have, I mean, that's naturally going to happen. I'm not saying that it's because of us, but we are definitely putting out more Barebow specific information than has ever been provided. And that's the goal.
Yeah, there's way more information than there used to be. That's for sure. So,
all right, dude, I'm going to bounce. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.
thank you, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you later. Goodbye.
So everybody, thank you so much for watching, and special thank you to all of our sponsors, Yost Archery Products, Jaeger Archery Products, XS Xwings, and we have a new sponsor coming, but we'll announce that at a later date. We have a few others, and if you are interested, if you're a company, or if you have a small company, you just want to sponsor a couple episodes, reach out to us at the Barebow Project at gmail.com. And we can talk about it some more. We want to support the small companies and the big companies as much as we can. So, reach out to us, and thanks again for watching.